Hey, this is Andy, and I love to talk about fun things to do in Florida, from the theme parks to the state parks. And a few weeks ago, my family and I spent a week up in Panama City Beach, Florida. This was my first time ever actually up there, so we had a really good time. But when we got back, I thought I would share with you guys 5 likes and 5 gripes that I had about Panama City Beach, in case you're thinking about taking a beach vacation there. Overall, we really did have a great time, but I'm going to share with you guys 5 things I loved and 5 things maybe I didn't about Panama City Beach, Florida. First thing I liked about Panama City Beach is the beach itself. The beaches there are absolutely beautiful. Now, this was the first time I'd ever actually been there, but when we stepped out onto the balcony from the condo we rented, I just looked out there and saw that the water was as blue as I'd ever seen in Florida. It almost looked like the Caribbean. The sand is absolutely powder white. It is soft to the touch, soft on your feet, cool to touch on even the hottest day. Now, I've spent a lot of time down in Sarasota at Siesta Key, which I believe holds like the Guinness Book World Record for the finest sand in the world. But this sand up here it gives it a run for its money. I mean, it is very white and very soft and very fine. Some of the nicest sand I've ever stepped on in Florida, and it's weirdly kind of seashell free too. At least it was where we were. Not a lot of shells, so you can actually walk out there completely barefoot and have just a really nice time walking on that sand. If you're coming out here for the beaches and you've heard that these are really some of the best beaches in Florida, they really do live up to the hype. I was pleasantly surprised by how nice these beaches are. And I say that as a Tampa guy who's always spent a lot of time at beaches like Clearwater and Siesta Key down in Sarasota, which are also known for having such fine white sand. But these beaches up here, they might even have ours beat. But that's going to bring me to my first gripe about Panama City Beach, and that is how built up and kind of like overdeveloped the beaches here are. When you go out to the beach here, you're going to look in each direction, east and west, and you're going to see just hotel after condo after high-rise for as far as the eye can see. It is a really overdeveloped area. And that could actually make it kind of challenging to actually reach the beach itself if you're not staying like right on the beach. Maybe you're staying in town a little bit, or you're just kind of coming in here for a beach day. Or even if you're staying on one of the properties that's across the street from the beach, you have to kind of come across, dragging all your beach stuff through, find one of the little beach access points, and then shimmy your way through there to get to the beach. There are a lot of beach access points, but unless you're staying like right on the beach, it can actually be kind of challenging to make it to the beach because it is so developed. There are so many hotels and condos along it that there's not a lot of beach open anymore that's just beach, right? Like just beach. There's a few spots around the fishing pier and then at St. Andrews State Park and maybe a few other spots we saw, but it is so developed that unless you're staying right on the beach, it can actually be kind of a pain to get to the beach. And that's not just a unique thing to Panama City. A lot of Florida towns have this problem. Clearwater has this problem. Sarasota a little bit. South Florida. Unless you're going to one of like the state park beaches, which I always recommend to people if you want to have kind of a get away from it all and have easy beach access. This place it's got that same issue that a lot of other Florida beach towns do. But that's going to take me to my next like, and because it is so developed and because there are so many condos and hotels and Airbnbs and all that stuff along the beach, it's actually pretty affordable to stay here. Because there are so many choices and so many places to stay, it's actually pretty easy to find a pretty good deal here. When we were planning our beach trip, the original plan was to go to Destin, but it was an absolute deal breaker to not stay on the beach. We all really wanted to stay right on the beach. We wanted to get up in the morning, look out and see the water. But when we started pricing out places to stay in Destin, we noticed that it wasn't as cheap as we thought it was going to be because there's not quite as many places to stay there. It's a little bit of a smaller town. There wasn't quite as many properties right on the beach. And so we said, you know what? Let's look at Panama City. Let's see what those prices look like. And we were pleasantly surprised to find that we could get a place right on the beach, a nice condo right on the beach for cheaper than Destin. So that's why we planned this trip, is because we found it to be pretty affordable. And if you compare the prices in Panama City against comparable places like Destin, Clearwater, Sarasota, the prices from what I've seen in Panama City Beach, are always going to be substantially or at least moderately cheaper than those other places. So it's an affordable beach destination. But staying on the beach, I'm going to tell you about my next gripe, and this isn't really their fault. This is more of a Mother Nature thing, and that's the riptide. Riptide has been a really big problem in Panama City this year. I don't know if that's like this every year, but this year, Panama City Beach was like statistically the most dangerous beach in America. I want to say like 7 people even drowned in the month of June because they ignored the double red flags and went out there swimming anyway when they really weren't supposed to. So I say this not to scare you, but to just so you're aware of it. Panama City Beach has had a little bit of a problem with riptides this past year, but it doesn't mean you can't go in the water. There's going to be like a flag system, and you just want to take a look at those colors. Green means go. If you see green flags, you are good to go. Yellow, there may be some currents and some rough water you got to look out for. Red is like really cautious. Be really cautious. If you see red, you are allowed in the water, but it may be a better idea not to go. And double red flags mean nope, you cannot go in the water at all. And we actually saw some police going up and down the beach on ATVs telling a few people to get out of the water. Not too many people were in the water. Most of the people we saw in the water on the one red flag day that we did have while we were there were surfers. They were kind of trying to take advantage of the good surf conditions for them. But they were still told to get out of the water, and I understand they can even fine you for being in the water on double red flag days, so you don't want to mess with that. It's dangerous. You don't want to get a fine on your vacation, and you don't want to end up another statistic. That would be terrible. But that is something you do need to be aware of, because there is the potential of coming out here and having a day or two or even more where you are not allowed in the water. So just be aware that that is a possibility. But the next thing I did like about Panama City Beach was, in case you do have one of those dreaded double red flag days where you can't go in the water, there's actually a lot to do around here. There's a lot of water sports, there's a lot of fishing, there's 2 fishing piers you can go check out. There's a lot of that tourist trappy type stuff like mini golf and go-karts and museums like the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum and Wonderworks, things like that. There's a lot to see and do here that isn't right on the beach. So if you get one of those beach days where you can't go on the beach because the red flags say no, there's actually quite a bit of other stuff to do here. But I do have kind of a gripe about all the things to see and do here, and that is that a lot of the attractions here, they tend to fall into that like tourist trap type category. It's one of those kind of towns with a lot of like the big slingshot ride and go-karts and mini golf and laser tag and things like that. A lot of chain restaurants. Not a lot of cultural or historical attractions, and some of them can actually be pretty expensive. And this is going to add up if you're bringing your family, and you may take them out there and you're driving down that main drag and you're going to see go-karts and mini golf, and your kids are going to say, "Dad, let's go go-karting." And yeah, you may want to go go-karting, but the price is going to add up. We went to one particular mini golf place, looked like a really nice course, but it was like $20 a person, and that was going to be like $80 for just an hour to play in 18 holes of mini golf. So we all kind of said, let's maybe go find another place. So we went and got some ice cream, and then we went to a place called Goofy Golf, which was just up the street from there. And we really enjoyed Goofy Golf. And the cool thing about that is that it's actually kind of like a historical mini golf course, if that's a thing. Before Goofy Golf came along, there wasn't any of the dinosaurs and the castles and the windmills and all that stuff that we all think about when we think of mini golf now. Before Goofy Golf, mini golf was just kind of a putting green and maybe a brick or a 2x4 for your obstacle, and they kind of pioneered all that stuff. So when you come to Goofy Golf, you are going to see like the originator, the OG of mini golf as we know it. So, and it's definitely worth checking out. It's kind of fun to see all these big fiberglass dinosaurs and monsters and Easter Island heads and all this kind of stuff. Pretty interesting place. And I am going to stay on one more gripe from my next thing here while we're talking about tourist attractions, and that is Pier Park. When you're looking for things to do in Panama City Beach, Pier Park is one of those things that's going to come up quite a bit. And they sell it as kind of like this centralized entertainment district with a lot of restaurants and bars and shops and things to do. And it kind of is that, but it's more like just an outdoor mall with a street running through it and a couple chain restaurants. We saw like Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville and Dick's Last Resort. And Panama City Beach, it's definitely one of those towns where it's going to have a lot of your tourist trappy restaurants, your Margaritavilles, your Dick's Last Resorts. We went to Senor Frog's one day. and Pier Park is kind of where all that stuff is. It was okay. It was just kind of an outdoor mall to walk around in. But one thing that made me want to put it on this list is that at night, the street that runs through it kind of turned into like a car rally or a car meet, and I don't know if that's actually a planned thing. So you're going through there and all these like kids with their tricked out cars are going through there. Some have even had hydraulics, bouncing up and down, which I didn't even think was a thing anymore. I don't think I've seen that since like the 90s, and people like booming their bass and playing music really loud and just kind of trying to see and be seen and all that. And that's fine, that's good, and have fun, and I've got no problem with that whatsoever. But it just seemed like by doing it here in the middle of Pier Park, it kind of made it like sort of not a great atmosphere for the rest of us who were just kind of trying to walk through. Couldn't walk across the street to the other side of Pier Park. A lot of noise, a lot of loud cars, a lot of people peeling out and screeching out and revving engines and stuff like that, when you're just trying to maybe walk around and have a beer and a bite and an ice cream. And I think that Pier Park could be improved if maybe they closed off that main drag at night to cars, maybe just on Friday and Saturday nights, and let that become like a pedestrian only walkway, and let people walk around outside and have their drinks outdoors and walk around and mingle, and maybe turn into kind of like an outdoor like street party atmosphere, maybe just 2 nights a week, Friday and Saturday. If they did something like that, I think Pier Park would immediately be improved, and I would maybe go back and check it out. But the way it was now, I didn't really love it. Maybe that's an unpopular thing to say, maybe that's a hot take, but I don't know. Pier Park was not my favorite part of Panama City Beach. But getting back to the positive side, something that was pleasantly surprising to me at Panama City Beach was how kind of clean and nice and well kept everything was. Now, when we planned this trip earlier, I said we were going to go to Destin originally, but then we saw that we could get a better deal in Panama City Beach and stay right on the water. And I was a little concerned because I've always kind of lumped Panama City Beach and Daytona Beach together in my brain a little bit. They're both kind of party spring break destinations. I think they kind of get lumped together a little bit, at least maybe they used to. And the last time we were in Daytona Beach, I wasn't super impressed. I don't know if this is a hot take or a unpopular thing to say, but Daytona Beach just felt like a city that had seen better days and maybe a beach town in decline. At least it was a couple years ago. Hopefully they're turning around. I'm rooting for them to turn it around. I have fond memories of going there when I was younger, but when we were there a few years ago, it seemed like it had seen better days. There were some boarded up windows and closed down hotels and closed down businesses. But when we got to Panama City Beach, I was like, oh, okay, good. Everything was modern and clean and well kept, and there are your chain restaurants and your like tourist trap type stuff, but everything felt like welcoming and clean and upkept and thriving. Businesses were thriving. Businesses were booming. It didn't give me like ghost town vibes like Daytona Beach did. But the next gripe I have, and this is one of those things that most of us are probably pretty aware of when we come to Panama City Beach, is it does have a bit of a reputation of being a little bit of a party town, kind of like maybe Daytona Beach used to be, definitely during spring break. If you're planning on coming here during spring break, you should definitely be aware that this is a very popular spring break destination for college kids, mostly in the southern part of the US, will come down here. During the summer, it's kind of like that, but the beaches are still quite crowded, especially around some of the big hotels. The area down by Pineapple Willie's was always really, really busy with people. So a lot of these beaches are going to be quite crowded, quite packed with people, quite loud, quite noisy. A lot of people bring in their speakers out to the beach. So if you're going to Panama City Beach hoping to have a getaway, peaceful beach trip, it may not be the place that you have in mind. I'm not saying you can't find that, but a lot of the beaches were quite crowded, quite loud, quite, people bringing their music and speakers and throwing frisbees and footballs on the beach, like you'll see in lots of beach towns in Florida. But it's definitely not like a escapist beach town. I knew that going in. I knew the vibe, what it was going to be like. And if you're not aware of that, you should definitely be aware of that a lot of these beaches are crowded, and some of them will have a fairly party-like atmosphere. Not all stretches of the beach, but some of them by the really large hotels will be like that. But the next like that I have about Panama City Beach is if you want to get away from it all, you definitely can. St. Andrews State Park, which is right up the street from there, is a great place to go. You can go in there. It is a state park. There is no development. It's just you and the sand dunes and the water. You can go out there. There's plenty of parking, great little place to escape, look for seashells, go and just hang out and have a much more chill day. And that's actually a tip that I like to tell people, and I did a whole video on this that I will link to in the description. And that's if you're looking for like a more locals oriented, less busy beach, go on Google Maps, look for the crowded, more busy, famous beach that you've heard of, and then kind of poke around and look for like state park beaches or beaches maybe you've never heard of. And those are going to be the places that are going to be typically more peaceful and more geared toward the locals. So that's my 5 likes and 5 gripes about Panama City Beach. We actually had a really good time. This was my first time there, and I would definitely go back. Great little beach destination here in Florida. Some of the most beautiful beaches I have seen. Blue water, white sand, a little bit of a party town, not gonna lie, but that's also part of the fun and one of the reasons you go here. Anyway, if you like this kind of content, you want to learn about more fun things to do in Florida, from the theme parks to state parks, please do all the things. Like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and tell one other person. That really helps the channel grow. Anyway, this is Andy. We'll talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.